All right, so 2024, what a year. It was the year crypto came roaring back, but definitely not in the way anyone really expected. So today we're going to dive into the biggest trends that totally shaped the year, and we're pulling it all from CoinGecko's fantastic annual report. Okay, let's just jump right in. First, let's start with the headline number, the one that tells the biggest story. Plus 97.7%. That's how much the total crypto market cap grew in 2024. I mean, it nearly doubled. That's a massive, undeniable comeback after what felt like a very long crypto winter. So, how in the world did we get here? Well, we're going to break the year's story down into 5 key themes. First, the market's big return. Then, the absolute takeover by meme coins. We'll also look at how yield farming had to evolve, the pretty surprising comeback of NFTs, and finally, the new priorities that are really shaping crypto's future. First up, the market is back, officially. And the main catalyst? It wasn't some new decentralized tech. Nope. It was the arrival of good old-fashioned mainstream financial products. The approval of the US spot Bitcoin ETFs? That was a complete game changer. Just look at the capital that flooded in. A wild $16.4 billion in net inflows in just the last quarter alone. Get this, BlackRock's IBIT fund became the fastest ETF in history to hit $50 billion in assets. All this new money, of course, propelled Bitcoin to a new all-time high of over $108,000, and the rest of the crypto market followed, hitting an incredible $3.91 trillion. Now, let's move on, because this was arguably the biggest narrative shift of the entire year. The market pivoted, and it pivoted hard. It moved away from all these complex strategies and just went all in on simple, culture-driven assets. Yep, we're talking about the meme coin takeover. And this chart just says it all, doesn't it? According to CoinGecko's data, meme coins weren't just a popular narrative, they were the dominant narrative, capturing almost 31% of investor interest. To give you some perspective, that's more interest than the Solana ecosystem, Layer 1s, and gaming combined. Just incredible. Now, what's really fascinating here is how this shows the change in psychology. The year kicked off with everyone farming points, running these complicated strategies to get airdrops. But by the end of the year, that whole meta was basically dead. People got burned by disappointing returns and started this backlash against what the community was calling low-float, high FTV tokens. Basically, projects where insiders got rich and retail got dumped on. So it was this rejection of venture capital-led projects, and the market just reacted by chasing simple, chaotic, community-driven memes where attention itself was the real asset. And this wasn't just about attention. We're talking about serious money here. The total market cap for meme coins just exploded, going from around $20 billion at the start of the year to over $100 billion. That's a 5-fold increase that really shows you just how huge this rotation was. So here's the crucial part. This trend had real consequences for the underlying tech. The whole meme coin frenzy basically became the killer app for fast, cheap blockchains. It just catapulted ecosystems like Solana and Base right into the lead, and they ended up capturing a massive 18% of all interest. But wait, what happened to all those people who were farming points? Well, yield farming didn't die. It just kind of entered its next chapter. It had to evolve in the face of the market's new obsession. The story really played out in 3 acts. First, you had the hype. Everyone was chasing points for these promised airdrops. Then came the backlash, as the airdrops kind of underwhelmed, and that low-float, high FTV model got all the criticism. And finally, the pivot. A whole new narrative around Bitcoin staking popped up, promising future rewards and kicking off what a lot of people started calling points farming version 2. And the data shows this pivot was very, very real. You can literally see the money moving. In the last quarter alone, capital just flooded into these newer Bitcoin staking protocols. Lombard's total value locked grew by over 2.5 times, and Ignition FBTCs grew by a crazy 6.4 times. It was all driven by users chasing that next big airdrop promise. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about one of the year's bigger surprises, the NFT comeback. After being pretty much left for dead by a lot of people, the NFT market actually found new life. And it wasn't through hype, but by established brands getting really creative. So first, the top line number,
total NFT trading volume for 2024 hit $11.7 billion. And after a strong rebound late in the year, the market stabilized to a level pretty similar to 2023, which shows some surprising resilience for sure.
So how did this happen? Well, it really came down to major collections like Pudgy Penguins and Doodles running wildly different but equally effective playbooks for staying relevant. On one hand, you had Doodles taking the mainstream route, partnering with McDonald's in a move that brought their brand to a massive new audience and sent their floor price surging over 120%. Then you had Pudgy Penguins, who went full crypto native. They launched their own Pengu token on Solana, a move that totally re-energized their community and drove their collection to a new all-time high floor price of over 36 ETH. Two different strategies, both wildly successful.
All right, so let's start to wrap this up by looking at the new priorities that really defined the crypto landscape in 2024. It was a year of mimetic attention, a growing integration with AI, and some fascinating real-world impact.
A few other trends really showed crypto pushing into new territory. The whole intersection with AI became a huge narrative, proving it has real staying power. We also saw crypto's predictive power on full display, as markets like Polymarket accurately called the US election when a lot of the traditional polls failed. And building on that meme coin energy, you had platforms like Pump.fun making it as easy to launch a token as it is to post online, just fueling that fair launch fire. So, what's next? Well, the founders of CoinGecko pointed out something really important. In past bull markets, money eventually rotated from Bitcoin into other assets, which is what kicks off an altcoin season. That really didn't happen in 2024, which leaves this huge question hanging over the market for 2025. And that brings us to our final thought. If there's one single takeaway from 2024, it's this: simple, viral hypebeat complex technology at almost every single turn. So the big question we're all left with is whether that was just a one-time reaction or if it's the new blueprint for crypto's future. Thanks so much for joining us.